lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle. And if it doesn't work, like, we can always go back, but if we don't try it, we'll never know if it works or out. And we're there, for each other, no matter your religion or your beliefs or whatever. Like, you still appreciate each other for, like, coming here from all different parts of the world.
Parents that are they've moved here, they're committed to being here, and their kids have decided to go to public school here to learn, either to learn Spanish, to get integrated into the community, for lots of different reasons, because of their friends. We haven't chosen to do that before. We kind of were unschooling our natures.
What do we really want to provide for our families, our loved ones? And that's amazing. And what else are you
like? Even the public school friends that we have in the States, they're in it all day long, and then their activities are after school that they're doing, and you're really not getting together and getting your kids, with their friends on a regular basis because of how busy everybody
raise my children in the freedom way, in their imagination, let them learn when is the right time for them. Every single children develops differently. It's not like I was always kind of felt pressure behind, like, oh, my children should know this at this time. I'm kind of like frustrated with myself because I have grown in this kind of environment where it's freedom, it's more connected with the heart and the soul, and you learn unconsciously. So you learn while you're having fun, like the coordination, everything is like with activities.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, here to a very special edition of our Abundant Living Ecuador podcast series. It is my absolute honor to be here today with some ladies of Vilcabamba. Welcome, ladies. So nice to have you here on this pod. And one of the special things, amongst many, many special things, is not only do these women live in Vilcabamba, but you're all moms. So a big part of this topic is going to be ladies' perspective as moms in Vilcabamba, and what does life look like, right? So we're going to get into a lot of what we like to call the insider scoop. We like to talk about real things, real examples, how life actually flows day to day here in Vilca. So if you like this kind of content, I will mention this now. Please throw a like on this video. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can get notified for other great content coming out. And I will say, I'll mention this later on in the video too, but if you have any comments, leave them, because we can always get back to you. If people have questions, the comment sections are always super active in these videos because people want to know more than what we'll ever have time to cover here. So have the comment chat, be really active, and we'll get back to any of your questions that we don't get to on this podcast. So I will introduce myself first and say I'm Shioko. For those of you who have been following along on our Abundant Living Ecuador YouTube series that we have, I've been part of a number of different episodes, but never with my dear friends, all of you together here like this before. So it feels really special. I'm part of the Abundant Living team. And I think what we'll do is, before we even get into each person introducing themselves, because we'd love to hear just in general, your background, where you're from, how many kids you have, how long you've been here. But before we even do that, I think what I want to just almost highlight is like some of the key points that we're going to make sure to touch on so people can get excited for all the info that's to come. I know as moms, education is really huge. People have constantly questions about school. People constantly have questions about logistics. How do we get around? Do I need a car? Do I not need a car? And lucky for all of us, we have a variety of different answers for that for here. And so many other really, really important topics, including one that I know is just so important to all of us in Vilca is community. We're really going to talk about from a mom's perspective, not just as a mom, but as a woman in Vilcabamba. There's so many different ways to become involved, ways we have support, and we have friends around us. So we're definitely going to talk a lot about community today. All right. Ladies, how are we feeling?
Good.
Shall we begin? Yeah. Okay, maybe don't answer that exactly how we're feeling. There's a little nerves here, and maybe I'll even say that too. I even feel myself a little bit nervous in this moment here because I don't often host. I'm really lucky. Usually Jesse's the one who hosts here. And actually that just reminded me, I knew there was something that I was forgetting to mention. So I want to say this in the beginning and we'll get to this. Another reason why this is such a special episode is because each of these ladies is the wife of one of the men who is what I'll call a usual character on the Abundant Living Ecuador YouTube channel. They're characters. Can I just say they're very much characters? And I will say who I'm talking about. We know the usual suspects here: Jesse, Brandon, Carl, your husbands, my dear friends. And so that makes this even extra insightful and special. Like there's so much good stuff to get to. So I'm gonna say on that note, Roxy, I'd love for you to go first. You are Roxy. Just how long you've been here, where you're from originally, how many kids, and that would be a nice little orientation before we kind of get into the Vilca life scene here.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Roxy or Roxanne. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. I came here in 2012, and I have 2 children. Oh, my husband's name is Carl Marson. And
how old are your kids?
I have 2 children. I have a 3-year-old girl, and I have a 9-year-old boy. With Carl.
Very nice. Very nice. And my friend, you.
So I am Aide. You guys probably have seen me here before. I am Jesse's wife. I have 3 children. 2 are birth from me. A 15-year-old stepdaughter, a 4-year-old boy, and a 2-year-old son.
That's a full house.
Yes, it is. I am originally from Ecuador.
Yeah.
From the coast of Ecuador. The area is named Arenillas, but the main town is Machala. So it's a coast. Just FYI, this coast has ocean but has no beach. So it's not the the best part of the coast.
But yes. Beautiful though, I know.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, and also I grew up in Spain.
How many years were you in Spain?
I moved when I was 6 years old, and I was there for 10 years, and I came back to Ecuador when I was 16.
Wow.
Okay.
So, yes.
So you have this dual experience, Ecuador originally, your family, where you're from, and then 10 years in Europe. It's a lot of perspective.
Yes.
The formative years too,
Yes.
those teenage years.
Oh, yes, I'm very grateful for that perspective.
And how long living in Vilcabamba specifically?
Since 2012. So
okay.
I was already 11 years old. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, I was supposed to go to Ecuador and be with my family, but somehow I ended up in Vilcabamba because my mom wanted me to be raised in a different environment.
Yeah.
And she heard about this awesome place that is in the mountains. I'm like, whatever you want to do is fine with me. So I'm very grateful that I ended up in this little town. Amazing. Because I would never would have found it in the map. Never.
Wow. Wow. All right. So we have about roughly 10 years between each of you for Vilcabamba living. Yes. And Tiffany, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
I'm Tiffany. I'm Brandon's wife. We have 2 children, a 12-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. And we are from the Midwest, from Northern Illinois, almost. Well, Brandon grew up in Chicago area, but I grew up like border of Illinois, Wisconsin. And yeah, we've been here for just a little over 2 years now.
Yeah. When was your 2-year anniversary?
I think it was like July 15th was right around when we first came.
All right.
Yeah. We like sold our house July 12th, closed on it, and then came here a couple days later. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back every
well, I'm sure that was really calm time.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, that was actually like our original flights were the next morning from the day of the closing, and like the night of like closing on the house, we're like, we need to push that back. So we pushed it out a couple days, and yeah.
Well, all of us, I'll say all of us have such interesting arrival stories and transitions. And that was one of the things that I wanted to ask, right? And we've heard this from the guys a lot too, from their perspective of what was it that actually had you move to Vilcabamba? And there's probably so many reasons, but if you had to pick maybe one, or if you need 2 reasons, that's fine too. But what was the biggest reason that you felt at the time of moving, which for you was a long time ago, right? This wasn't just 2 years ago. So it's like, what made you take that leap? And then what makes you stay today? And there's no brief answer, but maybe we'll just go around before we get into like the really day-to-day life. Because I think the origin stories, people love hearing that.
It's a little embarrassing.
Well, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Okay. All right. We can do the reveal later on in the episode. But we're just getting warmed up here.
What to say, what not to say. Well, I'm from the West Coast in Vancouver, the Northwest. And 2012 was a time when there was a bit of hype about there being some sort of major disaster on the northwest coast along the Pacific Rim. Yeah. And so I was thinking, if there was some sort of disaster and I only had a year left of my life, what would I want to do with it? Okay. And of course I was hypothetically thinking, of course, this is a highly likely that it won't be the last year of my life. But I was in my late 20s, and I had not yet settled down. I had been taking many courses to prepare for a homesteading life, and I wanted to meet my soulmate and have a family and have a farm. And so I was a raw vegan, and raw veganism is not, if you're looking to settle down on a permaculture farm, a raw vegan man is not very easy to find. And so, I came down here because I had some friends, Angela and Matt, that were living down here that were raw vegans, and they'd kind of created like a community. Nice. And so I came down here because I was invited by them, thinking that I would more easily meet a man that was into farming, as my friend Angela was into farming, and that was also vegan or raw vegan, hopefully. And I met him on the first day that I arrived.
So we have a living example of manifestation right here. This is how we do it in Vilcabamba, and I'm not being sarcastic. Like, things happen when you manifest. Sometimes it doesn't happen how you imagine it to. I always think Vilcabamba gives you what you need, maybe not what you ask for, but it gives you what you need. And it sounds like both of them were an alignment for you. Yeah. And this was over 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And really, my friend, Carl, that's the stage you guys met over 10 years ago, and where you were, and flashing forward to, I know life is different for you now. Yeah. Like, and just, I won't speak about myself for once in this episode, like, things change over the years. We evolve into being different versions of ourselves, So at this point in 2023, what makes you stay here in Vilca? Why do you say yes to this place still?
A lot of why we're here is because of our freedom to homeschool, to be a homemaker, to me, for us to have fresh air, to have a rural lifestyle. It is really expensive to live out of the city where I'm from right now. My family's in Victoria, so when we visit Canada, we go to Victoria, but it's one of the most expensive places in the world right now, that zone of Canada. And so to be able to have this rural lifestyle where I can stay at home with the kids, where we can homeschool, where we don't have any legal restrictions for how we homeschool, those are huge factors. Absolutely. For us.
And I knew
religious freedom for that matter.
I don't want to brush that under, and maybe just add a bit on that note, compared to, I don't know if you're comparing to Canada or just other places in the world, like religious freedom, how does that show up for you in life?
It's a little bit of a controversial topic, I guess you could say. Yeah. But yeah, I think we became Christian here in Vilcabamba, and in some areas of the world, it's becoming increasingly hostile towards Christians, you could say.
Interesting. Yes, I know.
And I mean, God bless all of us, and whether people feel that way or not.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of compassion for
absolutely
all humans.
I know from some friends I speak to, because I'm not part of the Christian community, I'm not Christian, but what I've heard from many folks is that it's super strong here and supportive, and like there's so many different types of community in Vilcabamba. Yes. And I know I've heard from many, the Christian community is something that those people really, really value here.
It's pretty incredible. A lot of people, there's people that have come here as Christians, and there's people that have become Christian while they were here. And it's, I'm just really grateful for the diversity and it's a very unique, grit that people have to move to Vilcabamba, and so the types of Christians that are here are very unique, whether they've come to faith here or whether they and it's very unique.
I love
special.
that. We are very special characters down here. We're very diverse, but one commonality is like we're all interesting characters. We all have strong personalities. I think we all really believe in things, and they're different things, you know. And so I love this conversation, and I think we'll touch on this. And I knew community was going to come up, here. So I'd love to ask Idea, you touched on this a little bit of how you ended up in Vilcabamba when you didn't know about Vilcabamba growing up, right?
No.
So kind of the question of like, why did you originally come here? And then what makes you stay here? What makes you and Jess and your family stay here still?
Well, so since I didn't make the decision to come here, my mom set up the factors where I need to be. It was a place that the people is kind with each other.
Yes.
There is a community, and there is not of this in the coast. And one thing of that I experienced there is like there is the politeness. So I would have a hard time coming from Spain to just face the personality of the coast. It's very out forward.
It's intense.
Yes, exactly. So my mom wanted something more calm, good influences, good people. So she made that.
And Roxy and Carl were here already at that time, just about, between 10, 12 years ago. Yeah.
Yes, and then...
and that was you were in a very different stage of life, right? Much younger, over 10 years ago.
Like 16. So I came to Ecuador to finish high school. And I finished high school, and then I met Jessie while I was transitioning to college.
Yeah. And for today, kind of fast forwarding 10 years into the future, 2023, what would you say is just the biggest reason in your heart that you choose to stay here?
So after being I've been visiting the States for vacation. I've been in Europe after I used to visit my mom. And what I did not like, for example, with my friends I had there, they were always busy. Like I could never meet them. I get out of work at 10 o'clock at night. I was like, oh my God. So in the 14 days, probably I saw one friend out of 10. So it was like, wow, people is really working really hard for like a normal lifestyle there. So I completely understand. Once you are there, like it's very hard to see. It depends also on your interest to see more. So what I really appreciate here is that I didn't have to work so hard, because here you can make enough money to live good in this paradise. Which in Spain, which for example I couldn't handle the cold, or too hot or too cold. And for me, my favorite seasons there was autumn and spring. So I was again like, no worse. Here I have that all year around, which you're happier. You have better mood when the weather is like this.
And so do your kids too. Everyone's kids are just running around 365 days of a year because it's beautiful weather. So everyone's in a better mood.
Exactly. So I love also like the community here that is available, is always supporting. So I had rough times, and even like I didn't thought I had a lot of support. When everyone knew that I was in pain, like everyone like showed up there for me, and I was like, wow, it's amazing how I never noticed to have these people around me, but they care about me, and they care about the community. Because there is a lot of people that come from other places. This is our family. So our community is our family. So we take care of each other.
There's an extra special community vibe, as I like to call it, in Vilcabamba. I think partly because the town is so small, we all know each other. So even if you're not best friends with anybody, there's typically, at least like a respect, like a little hello or something. We all kind of operate together, and then you can get into these pockets where it's friends who are like family. Here in Vilca, I feel that a lot. That's beautiful.
We have to watch out for each other and watch each other's back.
It's true. Yeah. And we can actually talk a lot about that, because we see, various forms of challenge in this town, even crisis. We've talked a lot on this channel about some of the fires that were just happening. We'll get to that in a moment. I was going to have Tiffany share her story, but there's a lot of showing up for each other. I think we have here. So Tiffany, my friend, I would love to know from you. So you came down here as a family of 4, right? Just over 2 years ago. What was the biggest catalyst that you and Brandon decided, you know what, we're going to make this leap of faith and we're going to do it? And what keeps you here today? And it's only been 2 years, but I'm sure, I know a lot's happened in 2 years. It might be the same reason. So I'm curious to hear from you.
Well, overall, I mean, Brandon has for years, probably since very early on in our marriage, that he doesn't like the cold, even though like that's where he grew up and, spent his entire life. So he always kind of had that like in his mind of like, oh, I'd like to, move somewhere warmer. But we just, like this is where our family is, this is where we are, and just kind of went on in our, daily life like that. Well, then it kind of got a little bit more of him talking about that and looking at some different areas and us looking, at some of those together, watching some of the, I don't know, the home relocation shows, where people just up and like move to somewhere else. Like, oh wow, like could we do that? I don't know. And probably more in his mind was like, yes, we could. And for me, it was harder to say I was gonna leave my hometown, my family. Like I grew up in one area. I went to the same high school as my grandparents, my parents, my whole aunts and uncles, like everybody.
Wow.
We were in the same area. I went away to college 50 minutes away from my home, so really far away. and so then but we started talking more about health and lifestyle and what we had there. And it was like the day in and day out, like you're working in jobs to just fund the home we were living in without a lot of like, what are we going to have in the future? Or we have this home, but to keep it up and to really do some of the things we want to do with it is going to be so expensive. So we're just going to have to keep like working these hours. And then we don't really have the time to do those things with the home. So the more I started talking with him about that and understanding that was when I started opening up a little bit more about, okay, you know what, maybe we should try something different, thinking about the winters there and being cooped up in a house, with 2 kids. Then at that point, that all winter long you're just in your home and you feel like you need to have a bigger home because you need to have space for these kids to run and play when you're not like outside all the time like this. So I finally, it came to me like my daughter was 10, my son was 5, almost 5. I guess he wasn't even 5 when we made the decision, but like, yeah, let's try this and see, what it can be for our health, for our lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle. And if it doesn't work, like we can always go back, but if we don't try it, we'll never know if it works or, what it becomes. So that was kind of, I would say like overall more just healthier lifestyle that we were looking for, less stress, clean air, clean water, food, like that kind of thing. And so now being here for over 2 years, I'd say those things are still definitely important and things that we love about being here. But then from my kids now, I think are what really like keeps me here. And so even though like I miss my family and our like close friends, back at home, but looking at my children here and what they have developed into and the things that they're able to just do on a daily basis that they wouldn't be able to do back at home, like that I see every day. Like, okay, I'm blessed to have that and to see where they're going in life by what they're getting here. And a lot of that back to like the community part. There's great people from all the gringos that are here that, yes, like we come together and we help each other out, and we're there for each other no matter your religion or your beliefs or whatever. Like you still appreciate each other for like coming here from all different parts of the world, but also the appreciation of the Ecuadorian community here. And my children now are in some more primarily Ecuadorian activities, and so we have become like more a part of that community, and the people are just wonderful.
Wow.
And welcoming. I feel bad because I don't speak very much Spanish, and so that's like a drive for me to want to learn more, because I want to be able to communicate more with them. But it is just like we're always welcomed wherever we are, in whatever kind of community, Ecuadorian, gringo, whatever, where we are, and I appreciate that, like feeling that that welcomeness, that culture, and for my kids to just be safe, and knowing that all of those people are like watching out for my kids on a daily basis. And yeah, now my kids can like walk from our home to their activities, ride their bikes around town, and they're safe doing that. So that's not something that they could have done, that I would have felt I mean, we lived in the country, so we would have been driving them basically to any activities that they needed to go to, so they didn't have that opportunity to just go ride their bikes and walk places or meet up with a friend. But even if we lived in a neighborhood, it's not really something I would have felt comfortable of them branching out much more than like the streets right around us, probably.
Is that because like when you live in a neighborhood in the States, people are not close to each other, or
well,
properties are large?
No, not. I mean, where we lived right before coming here, yes, we had a large property. We had 2 neighbors like on either side of us that you really like couldn't see their homes, and they didn't have children. Like there were no children right close to us. Prior to living in that home, we did live in neighborhoods, and the houses were like close, right, close to each other. But it took more. You had to go out and like walk the neighborhood, and people have to be outside of their home in order for you to meet them, and that didn't always happen. And we actually lived in a neighborhood for over 3 years, I think. And we ended up meeting, which now some of our best friends back in the States, we met them 2 months before we moved. Like we lived there the whole time, and they were really right around the corner, and we didn't even know them. And met them and started like hanging out with them. The kids became friends, but it was we had already like put our house on the market, or maybe sold it right when we like met them and started hanging out. So it just it depended on like what neighborhood you're in. Not all neighborhoods had kids in them either. So you just like you're there, you're in town, you're meeting people, the kids like just get together and hang out.
And your kids all they both speak fluent Spanish.
Well, yes, and now that is the other thing, like that it's awesome that they're getting that experience and that exposure to the language. Although I have realized in the last couple of weeks that now that my son is picking up more of it, I think I know where this is going. Them talking to each other. Oh my god! And saying some things, and I'm like,
Mom's out.
Mom and Dad need to learn this. I don't know what they might be saying pretty soon to each other.
That's so great. And I remember growing up, myself and my brother, like either you just a Pig Latin, like there's kid invented languages. You have a secret language. Parents can't understand it. Whatever you're making up, or it's just make believe. But no, this is a proper language that they're now speaking. And we've connected about the Spanish lessons topic, or at least Brandon and I have. And I remember, I think we had to go back to like, we need to make a pact that we're taking our Spanish lessons.
Yes.
We need moral support, group camaraderie. And I feel the same way. And we've come along, but there's so much farther to go with that integration piece of the language. And I know it's our responsibility to do so. But that's amazing to hear. I just want to reflect on something you were saying, Tiffany, about the kind of the easy 2-part question. It's like, oh, why'd you originally come and why'd you stay? And really just, I felt your heart so much when you said, when I look at my children is why I stay. Like, that's it. And so, of course, that would be an influential factor, but I just feel like that speaks for itself. And of course, you guys as a family unit of 4, everything operates together. So when your children are in a place of thriving, the parents feel a relief of like, wow, this is for them. This is beneficial to them. And I know you and Brandon love it here too. So everybody's really, really thriving. It's really special. And I was thinking too on the bilingual, on the Spanish note of all of that. We were going to get to this topic about education, and I feel like now might even be, a great time to speak about it. because a lot of people who are considering moving here, they either have kids or they want to have kids and they're really future planning. They want to know, one of the first questions is, all right, what are the options for school, or how does it work? Are we homeschooling? Are we Zoom schooling? And maybe you can each share like what your perspective has been, if there's been different types of schooling, over the years that you've done with your kids. And then if you feel like sharing, maybe you have a friend that does a different type of schooling that one of the three of you don't do, just so we can talk about what some of the options are. And if you have a friend, chances are you probably know all about it, because I know this is a big topic of conversation here, and things evolve. What was around, a year or 2 years ago might not be around now, and then something else is around. So maybe Roxy, if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, maybe I'll mention that there's a lot of parents that are, they've moved here, they've committed to being here, and their kids have decided to go to public school here to learn, either to learn Spanish, to get integrated into the community, for lots of different reasons, because of their friends. We haven't chosen to do that before. We kind of were unschooling or nature schooling. At first we had like a nature walk group when my son was much younger. We've tried out one of the alternative schools twice, but both times I'm, one thing that if you ever meet a raw vegan, they're very particular. So I'm really particular. I'm not vegan anymore, but I'm very particular, and I just really like to be in control of my son's education. And so we've chosen to do homeschooling. So we've mixed different curriculums, and then we're also doing online classes. So he is doing Zoom classes and has like a curriculum that's specific with different teachers, and then he also has a group kind of like a tutor, but it's in a classroom setting. So there's like 3 students minimum, and he has English, and we're looking at maybe doing math in that way as well. But we do English and math at home with our home curriculum. That's what we do together as well. So yeah,
in the group when you're talking about it, that's here in Vilcabamba, right? That
there's actually
some people that have come here and are like doing a little school in their home that were teachers in the States, and offer those kind of language arts and math,
like a group homeschooling experience.
Kind of not quite like a homeschool co-op, but hopefully we'll have that eventually. We haven't gotten that going.
And that's a good point too. If you just made me think of something that you're hoping to call in, like let's manifest with people watching. What are we calling in here? Homeschool co-op. Drop in the comments below if you have ideas around that, because what do we want to manifest? And that's where this conversation comes into like energetics, right? What do we dream? What do we really want to provide for our families, our loved ones? And that's amazing. What else are you kind of thinking the future? What would you love to see here in terms of education and schooling, if anything else?
I would love to see Boy Scouts.
Okay.
I would love to see, what is that called? It's kind of like Boy Scouts, like outdoor skills.
Kind of like survival, outdoor survival skills.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what my son has specifically requested.
Nice.
And we're looking at online classes right now. It really doesn't cut it. There is a class in Loja, but it's just...
We should be able to manifest that here in Vilcabamba.
I mean, talked with this,
look at where we are. And there's people who are homesteading. There's people who are so into their gardening and... so we, let's actually, there's local people who I know love watching these episodes. I hear it all the time. Let's make that happen.
Boy Scouts would be a big deal, or some sort of survival classes. We do know somebody who's offering it in Loja, but it is finding the appropriate property and everything. It would be easier if it's somebody that's located here. And I think more private classes would be awesome, or in that sense, like a homeschool co-op where somebody's offering a class and invites the whole community, kids that are going to public school, kids that are doing homeschool. They could all go to those classes. That would be really ideal.
It's a very community threads.
We already have that, but more of it.
Nice.
I think, and to go along with that would be a very nice facility that could house things like that. That would be really nice to have.
Well, that the leadership club uses that space over by the zoo. It
Oh,
could be
yes.
that
Yes.
that could there's a facility
That's
that's
true.
I've never set up anything there, but I know that it's available.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Amazing.
but
All
for
these-
us as moms to set something up,
Yeah.
would be good.
Yeah, I kind of forget about that over
Yeah,
there, but we
me
have
too.
done a few things there, and it
Yeah.
is a very nice
Yeah.
nice facility, although it's out a little bit,
Yeah.
where I think even something closer to town if
True.
possible,
True.
getting more of the community that does walk everywhere,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah,
to
good
be
point.
able to do that,
That's a good point.
would be good. But yeah, we should think more on that that facility.
Nice.
So,
I think
yeah.
that touches on a great note here that I felt personally, just even some of my projects or endeavors, there's such a sense of like creativity and coming together and just building things, experimenting, trying things out. Before we even get the facility, well, we just all go in someone's living room and we just do this and we make it happen and we see who
We
shows
start
up.
yoga.
I wasn't going to mention it because this wasn't the yoga conversation. I talk a lot about yoga. I know. But thank you for mentioning that, Tiffany, because Tiffany's living room was the home for yoga before we were where we are right now. Your living room and some other living rooms around town, and you just make it work. And if the people really want it and it's working, things manifest. And quite honestly, we're sitting in a yoga shala that was built in the past year. One of the inspirations was this living room yoga and a dear friend saying, we need to upgrade this. Thank you for your living room, but we need to upgrade it. Same thing with the school, kids activities, we just get started. It's this entrepreneurial spirit down here where we just roll up our sleeves, we do it ourselves. We don't wait to get, all this leadership, all this money, whatever. It's like, no, we just kind of pitch in and do it. And then we find the funding it'll be supported if it's meant to be. But I'd love for Tiffany, because your kids are kind of closer in age, Duroxy's versus Aide's little ones. Do you want to share about where your kids are at in terms of their schooling? Like, what does that look like?
Well, for us, we homeschooled prior to coming here. So I started Bella off in homeschool right in kindergarten. So that's just always been our life. Yeah. And we just came here kind of doing the same thing that we were doing, same curriculum. Although when she was young, I tested out some different curriculums in the first few years of her going to school. And then, kind of found one that I've pretty much stuck with and I really enjoy. So then starting Quinn in school kind of right around the time we came here, he was starting kindergarten, and we just continued with that as well. So not much of that has changed. We have not tested out public schools or the alternative school or any of that here, just because we've kind of just stayed with our thing and done it. But I have thought about it in ways of, I still work for a company back in the US, and I've worked there for almost 20 years now, and so I just work now remotely. And having something kind of like trying to figure out the schedule, because when I was in the US, I went to work like 2 full days of the week, and then I did a little bit of work from home. So then my kids went on those days, they went with grandparents and did activities and did some of their schooling. I could send, at that time it was just Bella, but I could send some of her school, and grandma, or grandpa did some school with her while she was there. So now like transitioning to that here and still trying to do that amount of work, but not having that opportunity for the kids to have grandma and grandpa to go to and still keep up with their school. I would love if there was something that I could, maybe even the alternative school here, but if I could just put them in for a day or 2 days, where then I do my work and then we still do our regular curriculum.
Like a hybrid option.
Maybe we can petition them.
Right.
If we have like 10 parents, maybe they think, okay, this is financially viable.
And more of just like, I enjoy doing the general subjects of our math and our language arts and some of that, but having like nature or learning, now the kids are luckily learning Spanish, but that is why I think a lot of parents do put their kids in some of the schools here, is to get them to learn the language. Mine picked it up because of being in the activities, that primarily starting soccer, both of them picked it up, and now Bella's in a dance group, and so it just continued for her and some of the friends that she has here that already were speaking Spanish as well. But those things back if we were still in the States, like I would have to make a point for my kids to take a science or a Spanish course and make that part of the curriculum. And they wouldn't be getting that
doesn't work
daily or not like the daily communication that they're getting in that and picking up how to actually speak it, not just learning words. And so right, currently we just continue doing the same thing, homeschool. Bella has done a couple online courses. Most of what we do right now is just kind of workbook in-home teaching.
Everyone seems to find their groove. From most of my friends have kids anywhere in the States or down here, so I hear a lot of the different stories of like, and everyone has a little bit of a different scene going on usually, but every family kind of finds their groove, right? And some experiment with a lot of different things. It's like, oh, is so-and-so at that school? Nope, we're on something else. I'm like, okay, that was last week, but I guess we're on to something else now. Okay. So it's like, we just have to try on. I think it's also part of that entrepreneurial spirit. You know, we're experimenting with different ways of living. We're in a foreign country, to us, not for you. But you know, coming here. So semi. But yeah, and there's a lot of, to me, the word that comes up is non-attachment. You know, I feel like in the States, myself and some of my friends, especially, you know, parents that are just, they want the best for their children so much. So there's a temptation to try and structure it, right? Get it organized, get it locked and loaded, have the plan so the kids get the best experience and nothing can ever harm them. It's like those plans often just go sideways and you have to let life happen. You just
some
have
of
to
that
let life
planning
happen.
is because of just how life is there, and you do have to plan. I mean, as homeschoolers back home, we had to be in groups to have the socialization. You had to be in activities. You were taking your kids and to meet other families that homeschooled as well. You met them through being in a co-op or being in these little homeschool classes that were available. We did a great homeschool gym class where we met, you know, friends through there, and actually still my kids like love going to the gym when we go back home. But here, that's almost just like everybody. You're all kind of homeschooling, or even the ones that are in school here. Like school
You're
gets
only
out
in school till 12.
12:30, 1 o'clock or something. So it's not like even the public school friends that we have in the States, they're in it all day long, and then their activities are after school that they're doing, and you're really not getting together and getting your kids, you know, with their friends on a regular basis because of how busy everybody is. So you have to plan the schedule out of what you're doing. And here, I mean, we're doing our school, and then at say 2:30, like my kids are leaving the house and they're off with their friends and doing their activities, and you know what, soccer, dance, piano, just hanging out, meeting a friend somewhere. And so that's really cool here, because that's what a lot of, even not just the gringo families, but the Ecuadorians, that's what they do. They're out of school and they're just hanging out.
And it's such a cultural thing, right? Every country's different. And I think one of the South America, Latin American things is like, the reason why all the towns are built around a square, it's literally a square. It's a square. There's a church as like a foundational, you know, energy that helps start the square, and all the little stores, the tiendas. Everyone comes to the square together. Everyone's walking on like the 4 streets that are just 1 block off the square, getting their green juices, getting their quesadilla. I mean, I've hung out with all your kids getting, you know, bopping around, who's got the coconut, and it's a flow of community that feels natural. It feels really natural. You know, the girls are practicing their dance moves, you know, in front of the church by the park, you know, and it's not so structured. It's not so formulaic. And so that's interesting about the different types of schooling. And I'd love to hear from you on this. Like,
well, so Kirsten went to school, right?
So that's what I was thinking. So you have different age differences. And so this is oldest stepdaughter. She's 15, right?
Yes.
She
So
could be 25, I swear. The maturity.
She's very mature.
Exactly.
And this is kind of like what I learned with Jessie, is kind of like where he allows her to make decisions for herself, what you think is the best. So he tried as a father to put her in school, the best, like the Montessori, like the more freedom, the less structure. And so she had those experiences. She was not liking it, and Jessie made the choice for her. I don't know. She'd say like, no, I don't like it. I said like, let's don't do that. So respect the children's decisions, like most of, in my case, like if I didn't like school, like my mom doesn't care, you gotta go to school. So I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah.
And I learned.
How old was she when that was kind of coming to the surface of like, she doesn't like this?
8 years old. So
when did she decide that she wasn't really interested in it anymore?
She, after that, she went to the States for a few years, and then she went to a school there too. So she was enjoying that, but then it was time to come back home with his dad, and then she tried a school here.
So a local school here in Vilcabamba?
In Loja, because we
were okay.
As well, like a Montessori base.
That's the one.
So she was like, she tried. It seemed like it was more structured than what we wanted to.
Yeah.
So she was not into it. I'm like, well, okay, like let's try something else. Like, let's learn from life. Like, what do you want to do? Like, so it was more like that. And I mean, she stopped school in Loja when COVID happens, and it was all time at home. I mean, she learned all kind of recipes. Like, she was like a chef.
Right.
Like,
I heard about this. She was telling me all about it.
What's that?
All kind of
mixer making cakes.
Yes. No, so she was very into it, and so she learned a lot, just like from YouTube videos and experimenting, learning from life.
Yeah.
Thing it was beautiful, but then like it was some requests that she needed to go to school. Okay, so then she was start doing some homeschooling, so some programs, and she tried a few, and now she's doing her own thing where she decides what she wants to learn, what is going to be helpful for her in life, and no waste time, because most of the time in school they teach you stuff that are useless in life. So,
and she does hers online.
Exactly.
It's an online program, and she can choose the class that she wants to do.
Yes. No, and she knows what she needs to learn most. So it's amazing.
That's awesome.
It's amazing how to see her developing. She's very smart. She reads a lot of books, and I think that's very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah. And it really depends on the child, him or herself, right? Like, what's their nature like? What is the level of maturity to a certain age, you know? I don't want to say girls are always more mature than boys, but there tends to be a little bit of commonality around that. And in this case, she's quite, mature and a self-starter, and organized. Some kids are a bit more free-flowing, and that they wouldn't be able to self-start, be online, picking their courses, show up and do it. And the parents like, see you later. And they're studious. So there's the freedom for it.
Some kids have been unschooled or homeschooled, and they're choosing to go to school here in Vilcabamba.
Very interesting. And so, Idea, your little ones, 2 and 4. Maybe you want to speak to, I don't know if it's formally school, but what does their little lives, look like? I know you're so integrated into town and its activities. Maybe we can transition to some like activities, what they're doing. And also, I know something that we want to touch on is like what kind of support is here. And by support, it's like for the daily mom lifestyle. It is nice to have helping hands of support. And there are many people locally here who support moms, between nannies, and people are able to help the house be clean and even some grocery shopping. And I think there's this interesting dynamic of like people, local Ecuadorians who appreciate the work, and they're hanging out with kids. And there's some nannies who I've met. I'm like, there's such a good vibe that's going on, and also the language, so little children, the 3-year-old is fluent and the parents are still taking their lessons twice a week, so, but maybe speaking a little bit. And also you are Ecuadorian too. So what does this look like in your household or for your little kids?
Okay. So I've been trying to figure out, because they're starting on the journey of education. So I'm always asking for advice. All the mamas that they've been in this road, I mean, why do I have to try to figure out? There's moms that have been doing that work. I'm like, so I just pick up from every single mom, like, what you do? Why work better? So I try that way. So I want to raise my children in the freedom way, in their imagination, let them learn when is the right time for them. Every single children develops differently. It's not like I was always kind of felt pressure behind, like, oh, my children should know this at this time. I'm kind of like frustrated with myself because, oh, my children doesn't know his ABCs when they're supposed to. I'm like, I'm doing something wrong. I'm like, no, it's completely fine. Then there is other people like the children is older, like, and they are very cool about it because the learning is gonna happen. You just gotta be cool with it. And then so I've been looking into that, and recently I find a couple that they were Waldorf Steiner teachers in the States. And so I was hanging out with them. I was picking up their brain and what they did, and they were guiding me. And I was like, I fell in love with this kind of education.
Wow.
And I was like,
wow.
oh my God. Like, I really wish I could have grown in this kind of environment where it's freedom, it's more connected with the heart, with the soul, and is you learn unconsciously. So you learn while you're having fun, like the coordination, everything is like with activities, and they are working in the subconscious. So I really was into it. Jesse brought it up to me as well. So so if there is a man for
Waldorf
that too.
school.
Manifestation.
Like he come.
Yes.
The ladies manifestation circle. We just changed the name of this podcast. We were calling in and you to join us out there in Vilcabamba. Bring these things with you.
Yes.
And yes, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
I'm interested in that. And like, I'm like, if someone doesn't come, like I'm like, I have to figure out for myself. I'm like,
you can start the school.
I was gonna say Aide's next chapter in life.
I'm a do-it-yourself girl, kind of like to learn and like
Yes, you
figure
are.
out. And, yes, so I'm trying to do that for my children, but right now they are doing the activities. They learn Spanish with the nanny. And it's very funny because
with you too. Okay, so wait a minute,
No,
hold on.
really.
Do you speak Spanish or English to your
No,
children?
I was advised I was supposed to talk to them in Spanish only and yes in English.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I got so used to the English that I used to speak English, and my English is not that well. So they would pick up like the wrong English. But good thing that yes is around. Like there is. Jacob can say words that I cannot say, like
In English?
Like, in English.
Okay, yeah,
And I'm
obviously.
Like Quinn's name.
Queen.
Oh,
Queen. Like they tell me that I don't say the name wrong. Like I'm saying the name Queen. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, and Jacob can do it, and I'm like, I give up.
And reminder, they're 2 and 4. Like your sons are 2 and 4. Okay,
Exactly.
yes.
So I'm very happy that they are bilingual.
Yes.
Joseph is 2. He doesn't really speak. He says words here and there, but he understands both language no matter what. So it's more than anything the exposure of the nanny that has been helping me.
Interesting. Okay.
In the last couple of months.
Yeah. And what does that look like? So you have your nanny. Is she with the kids for their activities or at home helping with like cooking? Like what is it? What does the daily flow of some assistance for the mom look like for you?
For myself, like I make it clear, look, I need more help, like taking care of the children while taking care of the house. You know, if you're not doing it, I'll be doing it. So I'll decide to go back to work and help Jesse in the company. So I'm doing that. But if that was not gonna be worth it, I would just go back home and do myself. But a work of a mom is very difficult, like to do multitasking at the same time while the kids is asking what you're cooking, and like it's insane.
Can anyone out there relate? Drop a comment if that's something you're familiar with, ladies.
So I mean, most of the time, like while you are doing something, they are like fighting or they are falling and they are hurting each other. So it's fine. So as well, like asking advice, but other mamas, what you do, how you do. I mean, when they are like doing this and you're trying to accomplish this, how. So what I do now is just like I have the nanny, I have her come early, and when she's there and I'm there, me and her we do everything in the house in those 2 hours. So after that, she can only focus on the children, so she can just play, teach him. I think the best learning is with life. Like if I sit with Jacob and I try to teach him something, he'll be bored and he likes the interaction. So if I want to teach him the numbers, like if we're walking, like I tell him like 1, 2, 3, like because it needs to be useful for him. Like why am I learning this? He doesn't know. So I learned that. So I'm like, okay, this doesn't work. Let's do this. I'm always picking up other people's brains and see what works best, but Yes, it's always the pressure. Like I should learn. Like sometimes I'm like, it would just be much easier to put them in school and forget about it.
Yes.
But I'm like, oh, no, I really, there is the stuff that I grew up with and I didn't like it of my education. I didn't want them for them. So I love the imagination. They go outside and learn things on your own, because that's kind of like when after finish high school and then go out of the world, like you don't know anything other than you have to learn it with experience. All is about experience. So after working in a lot of different companies and learning here and there, I got the experience that I can do other things. You know, and I didn't get it from
school.
Exactly.
I love this. There's that phrase, experiential learning, right? And that's so what you all are talking about. And I feel like as an adult, I'm having experiential learning in Vilcabamba. Like this is our life here. Like it's in our faces. It's raw. We all have never done this before. And you guys have been here a lot longer than us. Just to mention, I've been here just over a year, a year and a few months, my 1-year anniversary, the whole thing. And I still feel like I'm experiential learning as an adult of all these new ways and new ways of thinking. And for kids, absolutely. Just get in the nature. Or even I was playing with Jacob with his blocks. It's like the block and the train and the building the things. And sure enough, I'm trying to work in some of this, like, well, this is why it doesn't balance. And this is why you have to put this one on this side or try that. And
physics.
Yeah. That was physics 101 for a 4-year-old. Winning. Auntie Chi, as I like to call myself, as like friends of Joe, because I don't have my own children. And that's something about community. It's like, I so appreciate spending time with like my close friends' kids because it's a joy. Also, I'm not the mom, so I don't need to have the full responsibility of all that. But like all of your kids are amazing. And there is this like kind of community, aunties and uncles vibes, like the parents of other kids or other people who don't have their own kids. Like we're all kind of integrated. And I didn't have like a little closeness relationship with my others, in the States, my friends' children. Of course, we knew each other, but there wasn't this like camaraderie of hanging out. Like I've been horseback riding with both of your daughters. So these are like full experiential hangs that we're having, right?
Yeah.
But
and
before
on that note,
yes.
be careful if you stay here because you might end up with kids.
You never know what's possible. Interesting. I just forgot everything I was about to say. Very interesting.
What she said.
Good warning. Good warning. No. This is good. I mean, delightful thought. It's true. We never know what's going to happen. We never know what's going to happen in life, especially in Vilcabamba. I feel like the classic thing too is like people who come for like, oh, I'm just coming for 2 weeks. They're here for 2 months and then 2 years. Like anything is possible. We don't expect.
Exactly.
But what I was thinking about, and you're talking about Jacob and being immersive and the nannies, I think that's also another part of this conversation is something everyone, or at least you two have spoken to, is the cost of living, right? From people who are originally from Canada, from the United States, having that support. Some people like you're describing, Ide, they have someone helping them in the house with the kids. Your system is like, okay, so the first 2 hours of the day, some people have that once a week. Some people have that 5 days a week here and that kind of support. What does that look like from a cost perspective in Vilcabamba versus the United States? Maybe we'll start there and then Canada. It might be kind of the same, but what are we thinking, ladies?
Yeah, very much more reasonable. I mean, I never had somebody come in and clean my home other than just like a one-off, here and there type of thing. So doing all of those things myself in the States, because I really did like the cost of having somebody come in and clean your house for you or cook a meal or doing something like that, even watching your children, taking your kids to daycares or what is very expensive. And so I tried to weigh things out there as well as like, well, if I'm working, what kind of money am I making working? And then does it make sense that I need to pay somebody to help me with some of the other jobs that need to get done in the house, or does it make sense or not? And I never did put out that money to get help with those things. But coming here, I would say probably like what I pay, I do once a week. We have somebody come in that just does all the regular house cleaning. And that's as far, well, we have somebody that does house cleaning. We have somebody that cleans the pool on a regular once a week basis. But probably what I pay, it's 2 people that come in and they spend about 2 to 2.5 hours cleaning the whole house. And what I pay her is probably not what I would pay 1 hour of somebody
For
to
one
clean
person's time.
for one person 1 hour in the US.
Yeah.
And I could even say, like, I actually cleaned houses when I was in high school and in college. The way I earned money was babysitting and cleaning family and friends' homes. And even back at that time, I was probably spending about 2.5 hours cleaning a house, and I was getting what I pay somebody here now for 2 people to come and clean everything. And I was a teenager, so yeah, that was 20 some years ago I was doing that.
Yeah, the economies of scale are very interesting in different countries around the entire world. And I just want to name something, like, it's a sensitive topic because there's a lot of different opinions about this. Some people, the wide spectrum, you know, and I'll just name it. I've heard this before, and it's not much you guys, but just like, oh, well, that's not right to pay so little. You know, how dare you people from outside the country come in? You know, I'm just naming what's a real topic. I will also say that there's different realities in each country, in each like city sometimes, but different countries, it's very different economies. And I'm not trying to defend anything right now, but just explain some perspectives that I gained that people shared with me. I'm like, that's interesting. You know, everyone has to make their decisions about what they feel good about doing. But for here, many people I know who are expats living here, they're paying sometimes, yes, the minimum wage, which is the minimum wage for jobs like cleaning, as would be done for other countries. And sometimes it's significantly more than that. Sometimes it's double the minimum wage in this country. And I'm not saying, oh, that's what you should do and then it's okay. But I'm just sharing the perspective. Like, if in the United States where I'm from, if you're getting paid twice the amount of minimum wage for doing a job that would typically get paid minimum wage, that's interesting. And it's really helping your family. And a lot of these people who are working, whether they're, working in the land, like often it's the men who work the land and it's women who help with the house. Like, those are the roles typically. I'm just stating what's the norm. They have families too. They have kids to feed. And a woman who was cleaning my house previously, she had 4 children. They were all adult children. By the way, she looked so young. I'm like, how is that possible? Like, oh my gosh, I thought you were so much younger than you are. I think you're 35. I'm like, you're 32. I'm like, you're in your 40s? What? If like 50 years old? And 3 of her children went to college. And her husband, if he wasn't building construction, a maestro, as we call it here, if he wasn't earning some money by building some of the construction, they would not have been able to send their 3 children to college, you know, and that it was just very interesting to me. So again, not about justifications, but just we all have to find our right way of feeling like this is right. I feel like, do you want to jump in or sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think because of the community here, and it's not like where I lived in the States, there's all sorts of businesses, right? There's stores, there's manufacturing, there's
so many jobs,
professional services. There is so much available. That that's not here. So that is what is here. Like, that's what the people do, is they cook, they're in restaurants, they're cleaning, they're doing yard work, farming, like all of that type of stuff. Those are the skills that they have, and they're awesome because that's what they've always done. So that's why, yes, it's something then that we're able to utilize in my case, while I'm still doing something somewhere else in my job, that it is so helpful to then have somebody who can come in and take those things off of my plate, but then I'm being able to contribute to their family, their children, you know, as they're earning a living in that way.
Well said. Yeah.
Totally. Like, a lot of the people, when they're coming here and they're new, one of, like, at least me and my husband's biggest recommendations is to make sure whoever you're bringing into your home or on your property is somebody that you're getting at least 2 recommendations for from different people. And when they are a person that usually is being recommended to you, that's a person that's extremely valued by, like, for instance, me. If I'm going to recommend a cleaning lady, she's already, like, been a part of my family for a few years. Like, I know all of her kids, I know her husband, I know what they're doing, I know their extracurricular activities, the direction that they're going. in the sense of college. And the parents are paying for their kids to go to college, and it's a really big deal that they have regular work, consistent and reliable, and with people that trust them and love them and care about their family and are willing to sometimes bend backwards for them, whether it's that they need a loan, or they need a gift, or they need or they have a family emergency. Like all the people that know that family coordinate and try and help if there's somebody in the hospital. Like it's I think it would, there's people who are like that, in North America, and that's how they feel about who's ever helping them in their house as well.
Yeah.
And so it's more of like a character thing, but that's a lot, like everybody that I know has that kind of relationship with anyone that's working in their home. And I was thinking when you had brought that up, it was like, wow, when you're speaking to Ide, I was realizing they're really like home doulas. Like really, they're like
a way to
helping.
say that. Yeah.
They're the mother servant. I used to be a doula, a postpartum and a birth doula, and they're like mother servants. That's what I was. I also helped clean houses, so I don't have a problem saying that. It's like something I can say with pride, that you're there to, as a doula, you're there to help the mom to successfully accomplish whatever it is that is her responsibility, whether that's give birth, help with the diapers, with the laundry, or whether that's helping with making food and helping make sure the floors are cleaned and actually that's my first consistent cleaning lady twice a week for 2 to 4 hours each time. She came in immediately after my birth of my last child.
Wow.
And she was my doula. Basically, she took care of me. She helped me with the kids, helped me with the food, helped me to recover. They're loved.
They're loved, and I'm being very broad strokes, and I'm making a point to be very mindful of how we hold this conversation and say there's other perspectives that people have that aren't at this table. So this is and we're friends. Like we're talking like we're friends. That's this whole idea. Like I would be saying this to you if we're out for a cocktail. Like we're having our conversation from our perspectives. They are loved. And they're loved, and we love them. So not everybody's going to have such a tight relationship with people who work for them.
That's true.
But I feel that, and whoever's in my home, like you're in my life. You're in the intimates of all the incidents here. Like you know everything that's going on. There's no hiding what's in your, whether it's the garbage or the laundry or the things. And there is some support. And I kind of went out on a limb. We were talking about this, and I said, I've been asked for some support to buy a new appliance, for a woman who's been working for me for not that long. What do I do? She needs some support, and to each their own what they decide to do. But I'm like, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say, okay, I know you need this appliance in your kitchen. It's a big deal, and you need some help right now. And let's figure out a way, to work this off, and it'll be a partial thing. And I'm so glad I went out on a limb. And maybe I would have never gotten my money back, and I have to be okay with that in life. But we can be generous. There are people who get sick and don't have health care, and the amount of fundraisers that I've seen happen for that, surgeries that are needed, And I think everyone's in a different stage in life, and these stages change. Sometimes you have some extra cash that you can donate. Sometimes you feel like you don't. So everyone in this community just does what they can, and find a way. And I thought of one other piece, not to keep going on about this topic, but I know it's interesting. I feel like it's out of respect to talk about the diversity and dynamics of living as expats here, as the three of us are in this country. I've heard some perspective of like, well, they're having jobs cleaning houses or just being at restaurants. It's taking away from like the traditional life of farming. If a person who's from any country around the world, not just Ecuador, if the next generation chooses to do that, that's fantastic. There's many children, young people who don't want to do that, and they want opportunity. And it's very hard to create opportunity for yourself when the wage that some of the very rural farmers make in this country, I want to say it's near impossible. I have actually goosebumps right now to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get opportunity if you don't have some money to help fund that opportunity. And just, it's kind of like, I'm American, I can say, it's what America was built on. Like, find opportunity to help get education, to go see the world and see what you want to do. And if it turns out you want a gazillion acre farm in Ecuador to do the 5th generation. That's incredible. And the ones who do choose to do it, we support at the organic market. You know, like we're trying to support farmers to have the healthiest kind of food in our biodiverse region of this valley, making the most incredible produce, which we didn't even get to the food topic yet. Maybe this will be our transition. It costs money for these farmers to not use pesticides on their plants. The government, the government subsidizes. I don't know what you're going through, but I'm glad it's coming up for you right now. And we'll get to that in a moment. Because I feel so happy to be a gringo who pays much more for the kale and the bananas at the organic farmer market than the non-organic. Not because I want anyone to suffer, but because I want to see more of organic farming happening, because it's helpful to everybody who lives there. Not just the expats to have non-pesticide food and try to get the meat that's as clean as possible. And we're feeding to this cycle as much as we karmically can. And maybe I'll pause there.
Well, I think that goes to like the cost of living here. And that is why when we talk about, well, you're only paying these people, you know, the minimum wage, or what the minimum wage is because that's what it costs to live here. Yes. So we are able, and not everybody is like this, but able in my situation to come in and I can still earn money in the US, which is helpful for us in being able to change our financial life because of coming here where the cost of living is what it is. But then also being able to have those people help in the home that then I am able to, off of the money I make, you know, from working my job, I'm able to give them jobs. And I think that is so awesome that I can do that. I would not have done that in the US because I would not have been there financially to afford to give people jobs in my home all the time, because that's not what the cost of living is there. There are people there that do it, and they are maybe people that are earning more money that then are able to bring in, you know, help into their homes, full-time nannies, things like that. But yes, because of the cost of what it is to live here, a lot of the Ecuadorians have homes that are paid for. They're living on land that have been in their families for generations, and they don't have to earn money to pay a mortgage. The food here that is, even the organic food here that is so awesome, is so much more affordable than what the organic food is back in the States. And that is, maybe to transition into the food part, like that's one of the things I do love here. I mean, we did try to eat as much organic as possible in the US, but it was very expensive to do that. And now I love, well, like one story I have is that years ago, my friend in the States found a way for us to get raw milk. So in Illinois, it is not legal to to sell raw milk in a sense of like a store, but you could have a co-op in where you're basically owning a share in cows or in this farm or whatever, and that's a way that you could get raw milk. So she wanted to be able to do that. We were on board, like we want to do it too. We were driving an hour plus. I think it was like an hour and 15 minutes from our home. We'd do it once a month, and I would buy like 8 to 10 gallons of milk and take them home and freeze them. And at that time, I think we started off paying about $10 a gallon. And I was driving to go get it and then bringing it home, freezing it. And once it was unfrozen, it wasn't even the quality that,
it's not
like,
quite the same.
You know,
milk is not quite the same.
No, it was, it was a little chunky. You had to like shake it really well to like get it to blend. But we felt so strong that we like wanted to have that for our family that we did that for a while until the cost of it even crept up more. And it got to be like $12, $13 a gallon. And we were like, all right, we just can't do it anymore. So back to buying, the best we could get at the normal grocery store. But I currently now walk about, I don't know, what is Magali's from my house? Like a half a mile, So I walk like up the street from my home twice a week, and I come back with 4 to 5 liters of fresh milk from like that morning that was milked from their cows. It's still warm, has not even been refrigerated.
Wow.
Which I had to, actually, my family had to go do that this morning while we're here.
Okay.
But that for me, I'm like, this is so awesome that we have this benefit here, because I couldn't do it anymore, financially in where we were living. But now for $1 a liter, I go up twice a week and pick up my fresh milk.
How many liters in a gallon? What's the apples to apples kind of? Is it
4?
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm spending $4 a gallon basically now, and just walking up the street and even when I was spending
2 to 3 times, and you have a family of 4 and a growing young boy at home too. So this is a lot of
milk, and
3 to 4 times less expensive. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but where the food comes from. Right. That's what it is. These actual people.
It's
like, how do you know it's organic? Because I look them in the eye and they talk to me. Like, that's how I know it's organic.
Other people in the community that have also been there, done that, and
there's a
they tell us. But last week, so knowing where the milk comes from, last week I go there and I get my milk, and as I'm walking home in the morning, I look back because I hear a dog or something, and it was the husband and 2 of the cows. And the dog, their dog leading them down the road behind me, like he was moving them
Vilcabamba.
to wherever they're, the land or whatever, like moving the cows back and forth. And so I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure if those are the cows my milk came from, but quite possibly. They were then like
thanks guys,
me home after that.
Oh my
and
gosh.
then same thing with the produce. There's a tienda that is right up the street, like a few doors from where I pick up milk, and so some of the times I go there, I get my milk, I go to the tienda, and I can come home with a basket full of avocados and mangoes and bananas and peppers and cucumber, all of that, and I get home and but still like amazes me. I'll be like, Brandon, this all cost me $5, where like I could have bought 3 avocados, maybe 2 at some times of the year back in the States for $5, and I was getting a ton of
2 to 3
$1.50 to $2.50 generally for an avocado. So that is
I don't have I am not from the States, so I can give my perspective as an Ecuadorian that I've been in the States. It was a time that we were there for 3 months, and we went shopping. We are into organic health and stuff like that. Every time we went to the store, and it was twice per week, it was $500 every time we.
I'm like embarrassed, right? I know where her story is going. Like, I'm embarrassed as an American that you had to have that experience in the States.
I'm sorry, and maybe like people might think like, oh, you're cheap. That's kind of like what you spend there. But this is I'm from Ecuador. Like, that was for me like insane. I was like, couldn't take it. Like the whole trip was like 20 grand only food. I was like, oh my god, that was insane. And like at some point I had to hire a nanny because I had to go to a wedding, and that was like insane. So I find the cheapest, which was $20 per hour, and it was like for the whole day. And I went to visit them a few times, and she turned the TV on and like did nothing. I was like, oh wow. But I was like, it is what it is. I mean, I'm in another country, and like I don't know how things are. Like, so it was like, for me, it was a huge impact.
Wow.
That for me, like, if I want to live in the States, me and my husband will have to work, like have 2 works in order to like have our health living there. So it was like, oh no, I think I kind of like it here. I mean, I don't want to. It has good scenes, the States, You guys have Amazon, that you guys have weird stuff.
There's Amazon. Okay.
We have Amazon in Ecuador.
In Ecuador, like,
it just takes longer.
We can still get it. It just takes longer, is all.
So no, I mean, every time, like, I just can, when I'm in the States, you buy something and this next day is in your door. It was like,
you're like, wow, I got that. Okay.
So I mean, that's really cool. But those things are gonna improve little by little here,
But there's also some of that like that those are probably one of my main things I do, other than family, like that I do miss, is conveniences of the Amazon, the going into the Target, Walmart, whatever, and just having everything in there. But I also appreciate now that it has saved me money living here because I'm not on that like, oh yeah, you want it tomorrow? Okay, yep, buy that. Oh, we can just buy that. It's on sale. Yeah, doing that. The kids like were getting to where Bella would be like, Mom, okay, it says if you order it now, if you have to order it in the next 10 minutes and it'll be here tomorrow. Can we order it, please? Can we? I mean, that was like, 9 years old.
Wow.
She's like already seeing that, and I'm like, wow. That even though the conveniences are great, I do appreciate now that we don't have that like immediate need that I have to have it. I've learned to really think about the things that I feel like I need to order and send in, or that we need to pack our suitcase with and come back. And there are things that we do, but I also learned to just, hey, I'm going without for 6 months until I go back to the States and we bring it back with us. And I think that those types of things here would hurt the community here. So having even like we can go to Supermaxi and Loja, but that's far enough of a distance that we could still go there and like stock up on a bunch of things. But if that was here, things would be much different for the tienda owners and the community.
And you're referring to, I shouldn't have mentioned Supermaxi is a fairly American looking or Western United States looking grocery store. It was all the aisles and all the lights and all the produce. And sometimes there's some basics there. Imports that people are like, they go drive an hour or take a taxi an hour. And I love what you're saying. And that's an option to do too, but we still get so much from in town here.
Right, because that's, I guess, like the day-to-day here in town for us as moms. And this was one of the things we said we wanted to talk about. How do you get your things, your groceries, your stuff? Well, it is a little different for everybody, and whether you have a car or you don't have a car. But you're walking and you're going or driving, if you have a car, to different tiendas around town. And that there's somebody, there's organic stuff here and organic stuff here, but then these are the few that maybe carry mostly your garbage bags and your toilet papers and things like that. There's the ones that just carry more produce, or people in the community that are making kombucha and different items that sell in some of the tiendas. And it's so cool to be able to know like where some of that stuff is coming from, because some of the tiendas, then the farm that it's coming from. But it does make it a little more difficult to I need to go over here to this one, and then I need to go here for this. I like my butter from this place. We like some vegetables and fruits. We got to get toilet paper. For us, not having a car, because we haven't had one yet, it is really scheduling that out. And like, okay, I need all of these things and I have to hit all these places. Can I walk and get part of it, some of it, all of it, maybe? Do I need to take a taxi like around and hit those places to get it done quickly? Or I grab some things and then like go somewhere and leave some of it, go grab the rest of the things and come back. But you have to kind of take the time and work that out if you don't have a vehicle to do it in. But I still think about that in some ways, of when I'm like, oh, well, I've got to walk all the way from like Elfin Caro over to Franco or whatever. Well, that might be like walking in Walmart. It still might be like Costco. I walked from one side of Costco to the other side of Costco. Although in there I have a cart, then I'm like pushing all of my things. And here
people have those carts.
I do have one. I used to do that for my milk, but they're still not that large to get around. But there are some differences there that you do have to get used to, and finding the things that you need too, because you are going to live more on what's in season, what's available. I can't just say every night like, oh, we're going to make these certain recipes. Well, shoot, I might not have been able to find like cilantro that day or the day before in town. So you have to be flexible in those things as well. But then for you guys you both have vehicles, And so maybe
it's an inconvenience actually, because I tend to forget things because it's very easy. I just go to the store instead of
Jump
you are
in the
very
car
organized.
with
Like,
it.
I'll make
Yeah.
sure. Yes, that's even better.
Yeah, it does work better when you're going and you're getting your big box and you had to write a list because you don't want to miss it because you don't want to get that taxi again. I'm transitioning to selling my vehicle, and so I've just been this last week taxiing around, and thank you for bringing that up because that reminds me, like, yeah, basically what I always do is I leave my bag at each store. I walk around, leave my bag at each store, and then pick up each bag with a taxi. And just remembering to make those lists ahead of time. It's really important when you come here, if you come here, to talk to moms and get advice about where to buy what. Yeah. And there's about 5 different shops in town that get things from Super Maxi. And if you know what you want at Super Maxi, you can actually request that they bring it in for you. So that's also
and it's
really
more
important.
social while you're walking.
Yes.
I feel like I get to connect more with people when I'm walking than when I'm with a car. So sometimes like I have the car, but like I just want to walk. I just want to walk and connect with people when I'm hopping.
Yep.
So
well, and I think connecting with the tienda owners as well. Like if in Walmart or Costco or Target, those places, like, I mean, I might chat a minute with the person at the checkout, but I don't really know them. I don't know where they're from, you know, and so in that, like, we go into these places, and some of them for me that do speak English, you do maybe chat a little bit more with, but even the other ones that I can't really talk to, you're still, hi, how you doing? They know us, they know our kids, and then they're also watching out, like, for our children in these moments. Or you go into some of these places and, well, you don't have change or something, like, you can still purchase your items because you know them, and you can come back the next day, a few days later, whatever, and pay for your stuff. Like, you're not getting out of the stores in the States with your groceries if you don't have the money.
What's that called when you have like a running tab?
Credit.
Yes.
Credit. I just put it on my tab.
Put it on my tab.
Yes.
No, I feel very familiar with the home store. Like I always call them Hola Bessie, which is hi neighbor. Like, and I mean, they are not my neighbors, like, but we are neighbors in this community. So no, it's very close relationship with all of them.
I think all of this is so relevant, and what feels to me right now is like this is the weaving of Vilcabamba, right? And we kind of it's the conversation about food starts off with like, well, either you have to taxi or you drive, but there's something so special about community and all the things that we have to do just to live our lives, like get food for a whole family. Well, then you're also the exercising, the walking. I thought you were going to say, well, if you have to walk 20 minutes, well, wow, God forbid you actually just had a healthy moment there carrying some things. And there's pros and cons to everything, but the community thing is right. You know, getting to know the shop owners. And every time, actually, you know, as I'm listening to you ladies speaking, I was thinking, I can't remember the last time I had the thought of, gosh, I really wish I could just order this on Amazon. I haven't had that thought in so long. I used to have that thought multiple times a week when I first got here. I can't believe I can't, whatever. You kind of learn to adapt. And it's part of this culture. People who can't adapt, please don't move here. Like, if you're inflexible, if you need your Amazon, if you need your Whole Foods, if you need it pristine, if you need it correct, clean. If you want to be pristinely, it's completely clean, or everything methodical, organized. And honestly, I mean, God bless everybody who lives everywhere they want to. That's great. But I actually felt in the States, I'm like, this just feels so cold and impersonal. And the store Whole Foods that I used to love, that used to be my safe haven. That used to be everything. I'm from a New Yorker, from a big city. I'm like, this is the mecca of everything. I walked back in there months ago. I'm like this is kind of gross in here. Like everything is not that fresh. I don't know where it came from. I'm looking at these things. I'm like, oh, from Mexico, this produce. I'm in New York. Why is this from Mexico? And it's just the way the world is. Here, we are all part of this community.
Everything that's not grown in the Loja province or like in Saraguro in the Cuenca province is grown in Ambato, mostly Mambato, which is I think about 10 hours away, and Santo Domingo, which I think is around 10 hours away as well. So most of the food that you're getting, almost all the produce is coming, it was picked maybe a couple days ago at the most. before you're getting it in your shop,
Mhm.
in the shops here in Vilcabamba.
And any inconvenience that I might have to do, because I don't have a car right now as well, the carrying, the walking, because it also rains here sometimes.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
oh, really? Like, this is happening while I'm carrying my bags.
Yes.
I wouldn't trade any of it to be able to order Amazon and have Whole Foods be my best option for produce right there. But that's just me, and it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, Vilca's not for everybody.
No, and I'm been blessed that we've pretty much gone back like 6 to 8 months, every 6 to 8 months, and I do get into that feeling a little bit. Like we were just back in August, and I was like, I am ready to just get in my car and like drive to the store and drive to this place, you know, because I didn't have a car here, and I did rely on taxis and other people. So that was, you know, a little bit of like I can't wait for that. But then, you know, I do it for a little while, and then it kind of became like I'm driving around everywhere all the time. We've just been driving since we've been then you appreciate coming back. And so everybody's different in that way. For me, like I still love going back, and I love experiencing that there, but then I do love to see some of the, it makes me appreciate more the things that I have here, and seeing the things my children have here, and kind of how our daily, you know, lives do go here versus how they would maybe be going if we still lived there. So I still love it and love to be back, but I love it here too. And you have to be open to definitely, and I have struggled with a lot of those things and over the time of coming here and having to give up on certain things that I enjoyed back there that I don't have back here. So you have to be open. You can't just come here and expect it's all going to be the same, because it's not.
It's not going to be the same,
but,
unless you live close to an Amish community.
Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding.
I appreciate that. Unless you have a very different life in the States than I ever had.
It's possible.
It's possible. I think I like to call it the sense of adventure. If you don't have a sense of adventure, and you like things very predictable and that's it in a certain particular way, you know, it's different strokes for different folks.
Yes.
You know, all of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
I feel
even here in town.
It is, yeah. And we all
people.
kind of, there's a lot of different ways of living and, you know, lifestyles and schooling and even houses, the way people live. So in people who live in town, like directly in town or just on the outskirts of the square.
Yes.
There's apartments here. There's people who live way, way, way more in what we call the finca, el campo, like the countryside.
And you may find that changes when you come. That was kind of, we came here thinking, because we came from living on 5 acres of land, surrounded by a 400-acre conservation area, like thinking, oh, well, we could come here and we could have that for much less money, and we could live out and we could have the animals we'd like to have and all of that. Well, we lived out 15, on a large, well, it was a large property. We were renting, had fruit trees and stuff everywhere, very private, heard nobody for the first year we were here, but it was 15 to 20 minutes out of town, and it was inconvenient for having children. And so now we live just on the edge of town. And although I'd say, like, for Brandon and I, if it was just the two of us, maybe, you know, someday that type of property would be wonderful. But for now, where our children are and what they're experiencing in town, and Brandon, you know, working and being by the office and being by everybody else, and me getting groceries and things without a car, like this last year of living in town has been very nice. So we've experienced, you know, both parts of that. And I don't have the views that I had there, but we still have some. And we just, it's a nice place, and nice to be close to walking where we want to go.
There's options.
So,
there's definitely a lot of options.
There's people that you might have never met and have been here for 15 years, and you never see them in town. And there's people that you'll see every day in town.
Yes. I'm like, do they live at that restaurant in the corner? Because I've never seen this restaurant without that one character sitting right there. So interesting. Well, ladies, I would love to, believe it or not, I think we kind of bring this home, not immediately, but I had some ideas of how we can wrap this up. First, we realize that it's been an hour and a half that we've been chatting.
You're late.
But it's okay. And I just feel like there's just been a beautiful flow of this whole conversation. And like, I just appreciate I feel like we could keep going. Like we didn't even, I thought for these lists for sure, I started off by saying, guys, we're going to totally cover all of this. Like there's some topics we actually didn't even get to. I don't want to jump the gun, but there might be a part 2 at some point. If you want a part 2, drop a comment below. This is my job. I have to do this. Drop a comment below if you want a part 2 of this, because there are some important topics. I'm not even going to tease them, but I love hanging out. And like, this just made me re-inspired to live in my little town here. And I know people love hearing this kind of information and storytelling and the nuances of all of this. So thank you guys so much.
I want to say for like, for me, I very much appreciate like the mamas that have come with the level of consciousness and awareness that wanted to raise kids different. If I was not exposed to this, I couldn't really ever had that inspiration.
That's great.
So I very much appreciate it. If I live in the coast, my family think I'm crazy in the way how I'm trying to raise my children. In Spain, that's not even there. So I'm just grateful for the mamas that have come here with this different lifestyle and inspire me a lot. So
I'm so glad you said that. Well, you kind of took my idea perfectly, because I was going to say, if we all want to share anything, it could be a final thought or just maybe a reflection of this, especially if there's something that you really feel like, this is mine to share to people out there who are considering moving here or visiting or just being inspired. So think on something. Or even if it's like a quirky thing. One of the things that we didn't get to was like the quirky, funny, goofy, or like massive inconvenience. We talked about a few of them. Or just an inspirational, final thought. So thank you for sharing that idea. Is there anything else that you want to share? Maybe we'll start with you in this kind of final moment here.
No.
You knew it. You felt it. Okay, that's good. You literally read my mind. I'm like, she's doing it without me even telling her to do it. How is she doing that? Okay.
Yeah, and before you wrap it up, I wanted to say, because it was very important for me, that exposure. For me, my growing, I needed that.
Yeah. It's interesting. As I say, there's almost that phrase like-minded, right? We're like-minded, but we're very diverse people here. You know, and I'm thinking about like the Christian, religious, spiritual, yoga, other religions too. It's like there's different people here. So we're not like-minded, like, we're exactly the same belief system or schooling philosophy or married or not married. But there's a commonality of something that really draws us here. And you found people who inspire you, that you have some even deeper like-mindedness, and you're raising your children, your family in a very different way.
And people from other places, they are doing that work without noticing, like you don't know what seed you implant in someone when for me, like someone is talking to me, but I'm like trying to learn how to maneuver life, because I'm growing here and I need to figure out how can I do my life. So it's amazing to have that here. And all kind of experience. It's never the same. Every single mom is a whole world, and every single person it is. So I find that a gift. Here is outside of the paradigm. Everyone like if I have to do this with my family, I would have probably go through that road as well. Like, and it's like it feels like a jail. It feels like the Matrix. I need to say.
Yes, you did.
Exactly.
The Matrix. Yeah, that's a great metaphor for how you feel, and that's beautiful. So thank you. And I know there's people listening who are saying, "Wow, she's speaking just like me." Yeah, they're saying she's saying exactly what I'm thinking. I hear that all the time. It's like, God, that's exactly how I think too. So thank you for that. Our other ladies, our other pod guests today, what are some final thoughts or just shares at this moment?
I think something I was thinking of, and I don't know that we completely covered this, but what some viewers have wanted to know, or like, well, what's the day in the life of like the moms, here? And I think overall, I mean, we talked about different pieces of our days and how we do stuff, but all of us are different. Yeah. In our day in the life, because some work jobs, some don't, some are just with their children, some don't have children, So the day in the life of people in Vilcabamba really is kind of different per person.
Yes.
So I guess just like quickly in our family is basically because of school, homeschooling and working, like that's kind of our normal day on a weekly basis, is getting up in the morning, getting the kids going. Sometimes I'm working early in the mornings before they get up. And then we do our school, they go off to their activities. And then some days I'm working in the afternoons. Some days I'm going to yoga. Some days I go to the park and watch the kids' activities, and then, you know, meet other moms there that Roxy and I have been reading a book together and spending some time. Some days you're just meeting up, you know, with friends for a lunch or whatever, because you have that freedom here to kind of put some of those things in place where you want them. So, and then on the weekends, our days, it just depends on the weekend. We're doing kids activities, we're just hanging out at home, we're getting together with other people. But our life is kind of Monday through Friday. Each day is a little bit different, but basically working and schooling and then finding time to just hang out and enjoy.
And you're greatly summarizing too. I know there's a richness, and we didn't even talk about all the kids' activities, you know, like, and I appreciate the depth of conversation that we got into. I almost feel like it was real sweet to go so deep on certain topics. And thank you, Brandon's going to be very happy that we talked about a day in the life, because it was a great idea. And I was like, yeah, we didn't really do that whole thing. That's what happened. He also said be organic and natural. Yeah. So I'm like,
we talked about parts of our
didn't do my job. I was
like
supposed to do a day in a life, but
how does my day go every day? But,
but that was a snippet, and who knows, again, no pressure, it might be a teaser for like a part 2 of this, because people do want to know these other things, like, all right, and also the diversity of like different parents' days, different kids' days, you know, there's so many different kids' activities to do, and the logistics and the age range, whether they're 4 or they're 14, are very different things. So
and
to
even
be continued. Maybe.
The cost, I've heard a lot of that too. Well, what does it cost to live there and all of these things? And I just want to say, like, there's a range. So like for one, you can come here and live on very, very little.
Yes.
Because of the cost of the food and the housing and what is available here. But you can spend more, you know, if you have it and if you choose. Yeah. So it's hard to say an exact, like, this is you can come here and everybody's going to live on, you know, $500 a month, because some may live on 500 and some may still live on 3,000, depending on what you have available and how you choose to live here.
Even some of the products in town,
actually. 500 to 3,000,
because there's different qualities and imports. Like if you still really want your imports of certain things, like they're going to be expensive, you know, to get that
your
rentals
between $150 to $1,200.
Yes, and a little north of that. Exactly.
And the restaurants, you can go have dinner for $2.50 for a meal, or you could still go get a steak for $18 a meal.
Yes.
So
it's delicious, choose. By the way.
Yes.
And that steak would be $38 in the U.S. I'm actually glad we're having this conversation. I almost died at the restaurant in the U.S. I'm like, that is not $38 right there. I'm like, this has to be. I'm like, what else? Are these two people? Like, what is happening? So it's all relative. Costs are going up everywhere. You can live in different economies or different spending budgets here too. But that's a nice day in the life. So thank you for that.
On that note, I was like, you could actually
wondering,
just buy a cow.
Right. Tiffany knows where the cows are to buy. Her milk. Yeah, exactly.
You can have somebody else take care of it.
Oh my gosh.
You can do that in the States.
You can
It's
buy a
much cheaper
cow,
here.
bring the 4 of us and split it.
The co-op cow.
The
co-op cow. It's all good.
So
it's
thinking
all good.
in that direction.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like for you, Ms. Roxy, I'm sure there's so many different things you could share. I also just want to acknowledge we didn't quite touch on it, but I know there was maybe a heartfelt moment. I'll call it earlier in this.
I was going to say we'll delete that part.
We could, and then we could delete this part too. But I just want to be really mindful and really appreciate and respect. Like, we brought our full hearts to this table. Maybe that's what I'll say too. Like, there's so many fun things to talk about, and we didn't even get into like, okay, so what are some of the big challenges, you know, we faced here? We're not going to do that now, but we're real humans with real lives and real challenges. And it doesn't matter where you go in this world, you will be faced with challenge you'll be faced with what I call the growth edge, you know, like the thing that comes up with you, your karmas, your life lessons, whatever you call them. We're here to evolve and grow, and it doesn't, you cannot run from that. So we have all had our stuff come up in Vilcabamba. This is like the third episode that we do of 4 of us here, but I didn't know if whatever you might want to touch on, but I just want to say thank you all for being so heart open and sharing your lives, you know, and whatever you feel like, sure, we can talk about cows or we can talk about anything that might be meaningful to close this out. We'll give you the mic for our final closure here.
I just wanted to say that the one thing that is so important to remember when you're here, because there is so much diversity, and it's important for me to remember too, is how much we have in common, how much we share. The reason everyone has come down here for fundamental reasons, and we have almost all of those in common. Things that usually we might lose friends or lose at least the ease of communication with our families or with our friends in North America. Whereas here you can speak about almost every single one of those things, whatever it is for each one of us. And for each person who's decided to move here, you can speak about those things with ease. You can sometimes even like hear other people speak about those things pretty easily in town, at a restaurant or at a cafe. That we have so much in common, and that we just really need to focus on that. And that's usually when there is a crisis like these fires. That's when we really see like how much we not only have in common, like basic things, but we also care, and we care about the same things. And it's really wonderful in that way. I've had that experience in rural areas in the States, in Hawaii or on Vancouver Island, or Northern California, and it's something that's really special about living in a rural area.
And small towns. I'm sure there are lots of small towns in the States that have communities like this as well. But it is special here.
It's very unique. Cheaper.
Yes.
All the things.
Yep.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yes. And on all of these notes, ladies, this was so much fun.
Yes.
Like, I knew it was going to be good. I knew we were going to have fun. But again, I just feel inspired. I just feel, I don't know, it's like re-energized. And I even learned a few things. So for those of you who are in Vilcabamba, we hope you enjoyed this too. People have often said to me, I've learned things about Vilcabamba I didn't even know. And so I think there's helping on so many different levels of this kind of kind of sharing that we have here today. So thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to close out for a moment here and just remind everybody, look at what you're supposed to say. Okay. I am going to remind everyone, thank you for watching. And if you made it this far, I know you enjoyed this content. So thank you for hanging in here with us. And if there's anything you want to know more about, please, in the comments, ask your questions. We'll get back to you. Maybe there's a part 2. And also throw a like on this and subscribe to this channel. So again, I'm Shioko. So nice to be here with my friends and ladies.
We hope to see you down here one day.
So until then,
we'll see you next time.
Ciao, guys.
If you're interested in real estate properties, all of our property videos will now be uploaded on a different channel. Please click the link in the description down below.